Hey everybody, it's Anderson the Sausage King coming at you with another great recipe for your smoker. I'm making this delicious beef tri-tip pastrami that everyone's gonna love. So let's get started. I'm going to wet cure this tri-tip today, and this is also known as equilibrium brining because the salt and the cure in the solution want to get into the water molecules that are in the meat to kind of balance out the levels throughout the vessel here. And since the meat is 70% water, this type of curing is very, very effective. The FDA tells us that cured meats of this kind need to contain between 100 and 200 parts per million of sodium nitrite. So in equilibrium curing, you need to weigh the meat and the water that you're using to determine the amount of curing salt to use. You'll also use the weight of the meat and the water to calculate the amount of plain salt to add. Now, I'm willing to run through this just once to prove that I still know a little bit of math, but I'll add a link in the description to a handy cure calculator that'll do all the work for you. So here we go. Alright, I've got a 5-pound roast here, and I'm going to convert that to grams to make the math easier. So 5 pounds equals 2,268 grams. I'm using 1 gallon of water for the solution, and that is equal to 3,785 grams. So the total is 6,053 grams. I'm shooting right for the middle of the guidelines for sodium nitrate at 150 parts per million. So to get that, I'll multiply 6,053 times 0.00015 for 0.9 grams of sodium nitrate. Now here's where things are a little tricky because this pink cure is not pure sodium nitrite. It only contains 6% sodium nitrite. So I've got to dust off the old algebra for this one, and 6% of x equals 0.9. So to solve that, we just divide 0.9 divided by 0.06, and that gives us 15 grams of pink cure number 1. Now the plain salt is more subjective to your taste, and I keep mine around 2.5%, so the total weight again is 6,053 grams, and we're going to multiply that by 2.5%, and that gives me 151 grams of salt. There you go! Nice and simple. Now, first thing I'm going to do is get that salt in there and get that completely dissolved. Now I'm going to add in some sugar just to sweeten this up a little bit. This is 100 grams of brown sugar. Now that's not going to be enough sugar to throw off my salt and cure values. Once the salt and the sugar is all dissolved, I like to give this a little taste before I put the cure in to check and make sure my levels are where I want them to be. And that tastes pretty good. So now I'll go ahead and dissolve that cure in there. Get it all in there. Now my brine is good to go. I can throw the meat in here, pop this into the refrigerator, and start the timer. But I am going to add some spices to this brine. And to be honest with you, the spices that go into the brine have a pretty minimal effect on the flavor of the final product, especially compared to any spices that I'm going to top that with before I smoke it. But it's just something that I always do, and it doesn't hurt. So I am going to throw in a handful of hot peppers. And I am going to throw in several cloves of crushed garlic. And a big old handful of pickling spices. Now in goes the meat. And I'll make sure that stays covered with that solution for the entire time. Not only the size, but also the shape of the meat is going to affect the curing time. And that handy meat curing calculator that I put down in the description, that's going to help you out with those figures as well. Now, this one is going out into the refrigerator for a week.
Much later.
Now this thing has been in the brine for 9 days. I was only going to leave it a week, but I got busy at my job and it just had to stay longer. But that's going to be just fine. I probably could have left this in there for 2 weeks and it wouldn't make a bit of difference once the cure and the salt have penetrated and this is all equalized. Well, let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, you could totally feel the difference. This thing is rocked up now. And this is your corned beef. You can throw this thing in the oven, a little cabbage, some potatoes, and that would be awesome. But we're making a pastrami, so I need to smoke this. But first, I need a delicious spice rub. So the base flavors for this pastrami are gonna be black pepper and coriander. So I'm gonna start with 2 parts of black peppercorns. And I'm just gonna put a rough grind on these. I want this black pepper to be pretty chunky. Now we'll put this down into a shaker. We've even got some whole peppercorns left in there. That's cool for me. I'll do 1 part of coriander seeds. I'm going to break those down a little more than I did that black pepper. I'll add in 1 part of paprika. 1 part whole mustard seed. And 1 part of sugar. And that's not going to make it real sweet, but it's going to help that crust color up real nice. Now let's get this all blended together. Now before I season this up, I want to pat a lot of the extra moisture off of here. I got some weird flappy bits here. I'll go ahead and trim that just a little bit more. Clean it up a little. I'm going to tie that little tail bit under there for a little more even cooking. Now I'm just going to coat the heck out of this with that spice rub. Pat it in really good all around and the ends. Just get a really nice crust going here. Now I could take this straight to the smoker just like this and it would come out great. But I think I'm going to get a little bit better result if I let the surface of this dry out for a little while. So I'm going to pop this into the refrigerator on this rack and I'll leave it in there uncovered overnight and then we'll smoke this guy tomorrow. After being out in the refrigerator overnight, this feels like it's just about ready for the smoker. But just looking at this, I can tell that I want more black pepper on this. So I'm just gonna shake a whole bunch of black pepper all over this. And that is the beauty of making your own. Now, I'm going to let this sit out here at room temperature for about an hour, and meanwhile, I'll go get the smoker ready. So I'm going to get this started by smoking it at low temperature. I'm down at around 130 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, and that low temperature is going to allow the smoke to penetrate down into that meat. And you can run it at this low temperature anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, depending on how smoky you like it to be. So that's something that's kind of fun to play around with. So now I'll go and mess around in the yard for a few hours while this smokes. Got temperature probe in there because you always want to monitor your temperature of your big chunks of meat closely. And I've also got a couple of pork loins going on down in there, because why not use up some of that extra smoker space? And those I prepared in the exact same way as those tri-tips. I've just got a little bit different topping spices on them. Ooh, and since it's so hot today, I'm going to have to leave this door cracked quite a bit to keep the temperature down. Alright, it's been 3.5 hours smoking at 130 degrees Fahrenheit, running applewood smoke the whole time. Now these things got a nice color on them, so it's time to bump up the temperature. I'm going to go 225, 250 degrees and get that internal temperature up to 150 degrees. Right now they're doing 108 degrees on the inside, so this shouldn't take very long. Now, there's a range of temperatures where you can pull that finished meat out of there depending on the consistency you're looking for. And I want kind of a cold cut that'll slice nice and thin when it's cold and still be nice and tender and juicy. So I'm going to cook mine to 150 degrees Fahrenheit. But you could take that all the way out to 195 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's going to give you that kind of soft pull-apart texture. The fat's going to start to render down in there, and that is going to be very good hot or cold. Oh yeah! Well, that took about 2.5 hours to come up to temperature, and however good you imagine this smells, multiply that by about 10, because this smells incredible. Now, I could go ahead and cut some slices out of there right now and try this out, but I'm going to be using this for cold cuts, so I'm going to let this come down all the way in temperature. I'm going to pop it into the refrigerator overnight, and we'll try this out tomorrow. Alright, it's all chilled out and ready to slice, so let's see how it looks on the inside. And of course, we're looking for that beautiful bright pink color. Oh yeah, there it is. Ooh. Gorgeous. Has been a week and a half in the making, and now it is finally time to see how we did. All right, look at that. Beautiful color, nice and rosy all the way through. These tri-tips have got some really nice marbling, and that's going to keep that thing tender and flavorful. Got a nice crust of spice all around, and it smells fantastic. Of course, what really matters is the taste. Check out that bite. Oh yeah. I tell you, it's got everything you're looking for. It's nice and tender and soft, so it pulls apart pretty nice. You still gotta chew on it, of course. The smokiness is great. All the spices taste great together with the smoke. And it's got a good level of saltiness and just a hint of sweetness. Man, that's really good. Oh, now I definitely got to try some of this with some nice chunky mustard on there. Oh yeah. I love doing this sort of a recipe with these tri-tips. They're just so much easier to work with than a brisket, and they cook a lot quicker, and the results are absolutely fantastic. This is going to keep us in sandwiches for a good long time. Actually, we're all off the bread around here, so we'll just be eating this straight. But whether you're on the bread or off the bread, I really hope you try this, and I know you're going to love it. Thanks for watching. I guess we better check out this pork loin as well. I don't want to leave you hanging like a sausage on that. Oh yeah. Check out that bite. Mmm.